When I was 17, I was a big babysitter. I'd always loved kids, and my mom had so many friends with kids. I knew I could make a business just out of working for them. My mom insisted that I take a babysitting course at our local family resource center. She paid for it up front, but then I paid her back from my first babysitting gig. My mom was huge on teaching me good money habits. I think it's because one of the reasons my parents split was because of all the stress of money troubles. My mom was really smart with her money. She always had been. She hadn't grown up with a lot, so she knew how to budget and how important it was to watch where the cash was flowing out of. My dad, on the other hand, hadn't really ever had to struggle, but that didn't do him any favors in the money skill department. If he wanted something, he would just ask his mom or dad and it would be his. He had quite the shock when his dad had a heart attack and died, leaving his mom in charge of the finances. The shock part came in when they discovered that his dad had hidden debt, a lot of it. For the first time in his life, he didn't have access to limitless funds. It took his mom almost a year to get the finances all sorted out and in check. So when my parents first got together, my mom said my dad's money issues was a red flag, but she didn't realize how bad those issues were. My dad had never had to think about a purchase, never had to ask himself if he really needed something, or if it was just something he wanted. He never had to pass something by because he didn't have the money. When my parents got married and my mom got pregnant with me, my dad needed to change his habits, but he refused. He was hiding purchases and racking up the debt. My mom divorced him when I was 3. She had had enough. So when I started babysitting, I was very aware of money and was determined to take after my mom and not my dad. I paid my mom back right away for the course, opened up a bank account, and followed my mom's advice to save at least half of everything that I made. I had built up quite a steady babysitting business. My mom's one friend lived only 3 blocks away, and she was my most regular customer. She paid me $20 an hour because I was looking after her rambunctious twins. They were a handful, but at $20 an hour, I'd put up with them. I started babysitting during the days mostly, but then some evening requests started coming in. Moms and dads wanting a date night and time away from the kids. When the twins' mom asked if I could stay the night one weekend so her and her husband could spend a night away for their anniversary, I saw dollar signs. I was saving up for my first car, so the more I could work, the better. My mom had promised to match whatever I saved, so I figured I would need around $3,000 to get a little beater to get me from A to B. I couldn't wait. I could practically hear the purr of the engine. So the weekend they were going away, I packed up my things, took some snacks, and prepared myself for a whole night and day with the rowdy twins. When I got there, the mom and dad were so excited to leave. They barely gave me any instructions and just told me to call if I had any problems. I settled everyone in for a movie night. After dinner, the popcorn was popped, forts were built, and Toy Story had been the flick of choice. After the movie, it was baths and bed. Surprisingly, they didn't really give me a hard time with either the bath or bedtime. I suspected there was some parental bribery at work there. A little of, if we get a good report from Cindy, you'll get... But whatever, it worked for me. I know they'd had a hard time finding someone that could handle the twins, so it was a big deal that they trusted me for this long with them, and a big deal that I could handle it too. After bath time, they practically poured themselves into bed. They were both so tired. I guess Friday, after tired from a long week of school, was the night to babysit. I collapsed happily on the couch and settled in for a good old-fashioned night of Netflix watching and relaxing. I was texting a friend when I noticed my phone was about to die. I looked around for the nearest plug, which was across the room. I fired off my last text and plugged it in. I felt a little naked with the phone across the room from me, I have to admit. A couple of hours later, I could feel that I was starting to get tired. I knew I was going to fall asleep and had decided just to sleep on the couch. The boys were upstairs in their rooms, so I went up to check on them before I knew I would fall asleep. After seeing them all safe and snug in their beds, I cuddled up onto the couch, closed my eyes, and was out like a light. When I was awoken by the sound of breaking glass, I sat bolt upright. I hadn't thought to turn a lamp on before I closed my eyes, so it was now pitch black. I instinctually reached for my phone, before remembering that it was plugged in across the room. With my hands outstretched in front of me, I made my way across the room to grab my phone. I had it in my hand and was reaching across the table to turn the lamp on when an arm reached around from behind me and clamped a hand over my mouth. My heart felt like it was going to explode. The house had been broken into. The sound of breaking glass that I had woken up to was obviously the thief breaking a window to climb in through. He was pulling me backwards, and I could tell he was very tall and very strong. My thoughts flew to the twins sleeping upstairs. Thank goodness their rooms were on the other side of the house, so they likely wouldn't come down because they heard something. I had decided that whatever happened, I had to keep him from going up those stairs to where the kids were sleeping. I didn't know what he wanted, but I was starting to worry it was more than just jewels and electronics. He was pulling me towards the couch. My instinct was to struggle more, but I didn't want to cause a big fight, one that would alert the kids to something going on and bring them down those stairs and into danger. I let him drag me to the couch, but when he flew me down with such ease and aggression, I realized what he wanted. He was standing over me, and for the first time, I could see his face. He had a big scar down the left side of his cheek, and he had dirty blonde hair. When he spoke, I noticed he had an accent, something European, maybe Russian. He told me to unbutton my shirt and to do it slowly. I was shaking and was crying silently. All I could think about was my mom, how she would help me if she could, how much I wanted her there to protect me in this moment. I had never been with a boy, so my fear was on a whole lot of levels. I unbuttoned my shirt and he stood and stared for a minute. Then he told me to unzip my jeans and take them off. I asked him to think about what he was doing and asked if he knew how old I was. He said he didn't care and that I looked more than old enough. I did what I was told. If I was by myself, I would have fought, but my instinct was to protect those children. Most likely, he didn't even realize there was anyone else in the house, and that was exactly how I wanted to keep it. Once my jeans were crumpled on the floor, he started to undo his belt buckle. I closed my eyes and pretended I was somewhere else, anywhere but here. He climbed on top of me and did his thing. It was over quickly, quicker than I thought. It hurt, but no more than I expected. He was at least somewhat gentle and not overly rough. When he was done, he told me to get dressed. I turned away from him to pull up my jeans and do up the buttons on my shirt. And when I had finished and turned around, he was gone. At first, I wasn't sure he was really gone. I crept around the house to double check and then ran up the stairs. I slowly opened the door to the twins' room and breathed a sigh of relief when I saw they were both fast asleep, one on the top bunk and the other on the bottom. I pulled their door closed and phoned my mom from the living room. As soon as I heard her voice, I lost it. She was there in less than 5 minutes, and I told her what had happened between tears and deep breaths to try and control my racing heart. My mom phoned the police and told them what happened. The officer on the phone told her not to touch anything and to tell me the same thing. Within 20 minutes, there were so many officers coming in and out of that house, it was like Grand Central Station. Luckily, the twins slept through it all. I gave my statement and was asked if I was going to file charges. My mom answered for me that of course we would be. I had to go with a female officer and counselor to get a rape kit done. My mom said she would stay with the twins until their parents got home, and then she would be right behind us. The female officer and counselor were two of the nicest people I'd ever been around. I guess that's why they ended up in the careers they did, because they cared so much and wanted to help people. I went through the whole exam and it was awful. They had to take pictures of everything. It was mortifying. There were no bruises or anything as he hadn't been rough with me, but I felt so sore on the inside, which the nurse doing the exam said was totally normal. My mom was there and held my hand the whole time. I had never been so grateful for her. She was my soft place, and I could see she was trying to hold it together and be strong for me. It occurred to me that although I'd been the one that was raped, this was likely just as hard on my mom, if not harder. 2 months later, I had a horrific discovery. I realized one day as I was looking at the calendar that I had missed my last period. I could feel the color drain from my face as I realized what that could mean. The thief had gotten me pregnant and run away. I dreaded telling my mom. I felt like we'd both been through enough and that this would be the cherry on the sundae. She held me close and told me we would handle whatever came next together. And we did, just as we had with everything before. To watch more animated story videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments section what you thought about this story.